Welcome to the newest episode of Beatin' and Bangin'. I'm your host, Kyle Dalton. In today's episode, we're going to do things a little bit different than what we've done in the past. Instead of discussing driver media availabilities, I'm going to focus solely on Sunday's Cup Series race from Talladega with highlights like I normally do. But throughout this episode, I'm also going to provide you with a timeline comparison of the F1 race run here in Austin. Why, you ask? Because I wanted to see how the two races would compare from start to finish. We know F1 races are shorter, but how much shorter? And as I mentioned last week, TV ratings for NASCAR have been on the decline this year, while F1 ratings have been on the rise. Could F1 beat NASCAR this weekend? We won't know the answer to that until tomorrow when the ratings come out. But with my little experiment, we can at least see how the two events compare lengthwise and how much time fans have to invest in a race. So let's get started, and we'll start at 1:30 Eastern Time when the pre-race shows for both races started, with F1 on the left side of the screen starting on ABC and NASCAR on the right side on NBC. Immediately, in my eyes, the F1 broadcast is off to a great start with that beautiful Texas Longhorn. So now we fast forward 1 hour later to the actual start of the NASCAR Cup Series race at 2:30 Eastern Time, where pole sitter Michael McDowell led the field to green. One trip around the 2.66 mile track and we had already gone 3 wide. Then, 4 laps later, we went 4 wide, and it was what would turn out to be the case all day with a rotating door of leaders, and sometimes unexpected ones, as we saw here with Kyle Busch and Josh Berry leading the pack. Busch would go on to lead 26 laps during the race for his first laps led this year since the Kansas race. And I'm not talking about the one a few weeks ago, but the one back earlier in the spring. Interestingly, Denny Hamlin, who won last week at Vegas, didn't have any interest leading early on and dropped all the way to the back and was running 39th on lap 30. And then at 3:04 Eastern Time, the F1 race started. At that point, the NASCAR race was on lap 40 of the first stage. Just 3 laps later, we had our first round of green flag pit stops, and that's when, as we've seen all season, the problems began on pit road, starting first with Chase Briscoe, who was too fast entering on pit road, and then a short time later, it was Kyle Busch's turn. He was too fast exiting on pit road. As you guys know, I've talked about it multiple times this year. We've had some quiet first and second stages, and then the final stage has been cautions breeding cautions. Well, we didn't have to wait for that this time around at Talladega, and on lap 52, we had a big crash with 9 cars involved. One of the 9 cars was the number 9 car of Chase Elliott, who suffered major damage and ended his day early. He finished dead last. While unfortunate, that incident did make it perfectly clear what the 2020 champion's job is next week at Martinsville. The other thing of note during that crash was the scary situation with AJ Allmendinger. The number 16 driver had a fire in his car and smoke filled the cockpit. Now I want you to take a look at this video from a fan that I found online of the Kaulig Racing driver and just how long it took for the AMR safety crew to get to him.
Allmendinger machine, closing lap here on stage number 1 of the pit, strikes in turn 3.
So I don't know if you were counting, but I did. It was 41 seconds from the time AJ's window net comes down to the time a safety worker shows up on the screen. Now remember, that's the time of his window net going down. He had been stopped there for a few seconds already, so it's probably closer to a minute or more before he received medical attention. Now, as someone who has never been to Talladega, I don't know if that's an excessive amount of time to get to someone on that 2.66 mile track. I'm curious to hear what you guys think, if it was too long or not. During the subsequent pit stops, the NBC broadcast did something that I hadn't seen all year but really liked when they showed the 15 drivers who stayed out during the stop. I thought that was really helpful for the viewing experience because then you could see who was actually out on the track while the others had pitted. So that left us with a 2-lap sprint to the stage 1 finish, and when it was all said and done, it was a monster finish with Ty Gibbs edging out Tyler Reddick for the win. This occurred at 3:30 Eastern Time, or exactly 1 hour after the start of the race. During pit stops, we had an incident on pit road when Riley Herbst got into Anthony Alfredo and sent him for a spin. Let's go to that second stage, and we were 16 laps into it at 3:50 p.m. That's notable because that was also the same time we hit the halfway point of the F1 race. Also of interest, Max Verstappen had an almost 11-second lead over Lando Norris at COTA, while the boys were racing 3 wide at Talladega. And then 16 minutes later, we reached the halfway point of the NASCAR race at 4:06. As you can see, Kyle Busch was leading the race. A short time later, with 10 laps to go in the stage, SVG had a moment where he got into some water on the apron and went for a slide. Unbelievably, all the cars coming to pit road somehow managed to avoid him as the number 88 got stuck in the grass. You knew NASCAR didn't want to put out the caution because it was right in the middle of a pit cycle, but they couldn't hold off because SVG was unable to get out of the grass. The yellow was eventually displayed, and that turned out to be a big break for the cars who were pitting around the number 88 car. Just like that first stage, that incident happened at the end of the stage, and we had a quick sprint to the finish. Chase Briscoe went on to win that second stage, and he was followed by Kyle Larson, Carson Hocevar, William Byron, and Christopher Bell. During that stage break, at 4:39, the F1 race came to a conclusion with Max Verstappen winning. The total race time from lights out to checkered flag in Austin was 1 hour and 35 minutes. Yeah, I was actually surprised at how short it was. Meanwhile, we still had a full stage to go in the NASCAR race. Early on in that third and final stage, we had a Ford freight train up front with the top 5 cars all blue ovals. With 25 laps to go, I thought it was interesting how Bob Pockris pointed out on X that Denny Hamlin was in the second row on the outside lane and was pushing the car in front of him, which was on the front row. And it was the front row motorsports car of Todd Gilliland, which was interesting because they are both partners in a lawsuit against NASCAR. And then a couple laps later, with 23 laps to go, we had our weekly COTA wear incident, and the number 51 went for a spin. It was during that caution that Denny Hamlin reported to his team that he was having problems with his throttle getting stuck. I'm sure you guys probably remember back in Chicago when he was very frustrated with his car having engine troubles during practice, and he was saying how that was unacceptable for the organization to have those kinds of issues. Well, take a listen to what he had to say once he was having issues with his stuck throttle.
My throttle's hot. Tommy, can you use your foot? Work it loose? I'm getting shoved. Kill it, whatever you need to do here to try and get it. Pace car's going to slow you way down. Behind the 12 if you get it handled. I don't know what to do. If I push the clutch in, it just goes to peg. All I know is turn the motor off and then work it. That's the only thing I can tell you. Okay. This is fucking unbelievable. Why can't we keep our cars together? Yeah, copy that. We had 10.2 volts there. Copy. We got to get our shit together at the shop to keep our cars from breaking down.
On the restart with 17 laps to go, it looked like the Penske cars were in a strong position to win the race, with Ryan Blaney lining up on the inside of row 1 and Joey Logano right behind him. And then with 14 laps to go, Kyle Larson, who is yet to win on a super speedway, led the race and was looking to join one of multiple drivers who had won a race on their 400th career start. Chris Buescher was out in front leading with 2 to go when Carson Hocevar gave a big push to William Byron, who then gave a shove to the number 17 car that went wrong, and the RFK Racing car made a hard left and crashed into the inside wall. During the caution, some teams were concerned about running low on fuel going into overtime. Take a listen to the radio of Kyle Larson.
Every time I refire it, it's flashing, like it's flashing right now. I don't know what you want me to do.
No problem. We're going to go blue on 2 now. We're okay. With that signal you're getting now, we will be good to complete the green-white checkered with what's in the tank. If the yellow comes out again, we'll pit. Because of the speed and banking load and where the pickups are, it's a different signal under yellow versus under green. So we're going to be good to complete the green-white checkered here, blue on 2.
So Larson was assured multiple times by his crew chief, Cliff Daniels, that he was good to go to make it through at least the first overtime. On the restart, Larson and Byron split themselves on the front row. And after almost one trip around the track and just before taking the white flag, Bubba Wallace pushed the number 5 car out in front, and he dropped in front of the number 24 on the inside lane. The two HMS cars were in prime position to win the race. Could Larson finally snap his winless streak on super speedways? That final lap around Talladega turned out to be a disastrous one for HMS. Kyle Larson ran out of gas on the backstretch and dropped down onto the apron. Larson's unexpected move took away the momentum of the inside lane, which slowed down Byron and allowed Chase Briscoe to capitalize as he dropped down from the outside to the lower lane. His Joe Gibbs Racing teammate Ty Gibbs followed and pushed him past Bubba Wallace to the win at 5:56 p.m. Eastern Time, or 3 hours and 26 minutes after taking the green flag. In his post-race interview, Briscoe thanked Ty Gibbs for helping him. Now I want you to take a listen to what the number 54 driver had to say about it on his team radio.
Coming to checkers here. Don't get off the bottom. Don't leave the bottom. Don't let them split you below the line. Come to the green checker flag here. Spinning behind you. Checker flag. Nice job, buddy. Good job all day.
Yep, we should get the win bonus for that one.
Yes, sir, you did the right thing. Great job today, everybody. Everybody executed really well. I'm proud of you. It's coming, buddy.
Yep. What about a fucking meeting?
I'll leave that one right there, buddy.
His spotter was clearly telling him not to get off the bottom and continue pushing Briscoe. But then, after they crossed the finish line, Gibbs made a couple of curious remarks, including one about a meeting. I can only assume that he was referencing the meeting the JGR drivers had after New Hampshire, when Hamlin voiced his frustration with Gibbs and his aggressive driving around his playoff teammates. The 23-year-old obviously had that fresh on his mind. The win advances Briscoe to the Championship 4 race in Phoenix, and he joins his teammate Denny Hamlin. I have to point out, the first round of 16 races, Joe Gibbs Racing swept them, with Briscoe winning at Darlington, Hamlin winning at Gateway, and Bell winning at Bristol. The second round of 12, the JGR boys were shut out, with Blaney, Elliott, and SVG all winning. But now in the third round of 8, we flipped the script, this time with Hamlin winning the first race of the round last week at Las Vegas, while Briscoe has now punched his ticket. Could Christopher Bell join them next weekend at Martinsville? Bell currently could point his way in, as he is in third, 37 points above the cut line, while Kyle Larson is right behind him at plus 36 points. William Byron is first below the cut line at minus 36, and he's joined by Joey Logano, Ryan Blaney, and Chase Elliott. Basically, those guys are all in must-win scenarios. For you HMS fans, you know it was an ugly day in Alabama as far as finishing positions were concerned. How ugly, though? How about with William Byron finishing 25th? That marked the first time since Michigan in June 2013 that the best finishing Hendrick Motorsports car placed 25th or worse. Let that sink in. So basically, that is the worst finish for HMS at a track in a dozen years. I also wanted to note that Todd Gilliland finished second for his career best finish. All right, guys, that's a wrap of today's episode. Let's talk about it. Let's start with your thoughts on my timeline comparison to the F1 race. Were you surprised to see how much shorter the F1 race was? By my math, the F1 race was an hour and 51 minutes, or almost 2 full hours shorter than the Cup race. I was really surprised by that. And what did you think of the overall race? I enjoyed it and thought it was an entertaining race for much of the day. I'm sure you HMS fans aren't feeling the same way today. Thanks again for checking out the latest episode and supporting the channel. I really appreciate it and hope you have a great rest of your day.